Hi everyone, welcome to this tutorial. So today we want to quickly look at how to create the solution for the requirement for assignment 3. So we've been asked to create some couple of GUIs, the GUI for the login, for the admin side, and the parent side of the application that we are to work on, Amandla High School Local Booking System. So we've gone through this requirement before in the previous tutorial, so I just want us to quickly rush through it. To improve the local booking system for Amandla High School, we want to provide you with information to assist you to understand the current booking system used by the school. So we've been made to understand that the school used a Google form in the past, to manage the local booking. So why are we changing to a web-based system? The new local system will be streamlined and automated solution designed to provide a faster way for parents to book lockers, reduce the chance of error or miscommunication, allow parents to easily view locker, book a preferred locker, and manage their bookings. So in the previous tutorials, we have worked extensively on the database, so I'm just going to quickly walk us through that. So from the previous tutorial, we had all this database. We had the database, local DB database with all these tables. The admin table, which is going to contain the information about the admin, the surname, name, email, password. The lockers table, which is going to contain the lockers and their label. For instance, L1, L2, L3, L4, and so on and so forth. So we have the parents table, which is going to which contains the information about parents. So their ID, name, surname, address, email, title, contact number, and password. Password are currently stored in plain text right now, but we are going to update this later on to make sure that the password is encrypted so that it's not going to be appearing as a plain text in the database like this. So we also have the students table. We have the student number, which is on the student column, ID column. We have the surname, name, grade, and then the parents that the student belongs to. So we have the student locker table, which is going to contain the student locker registration, the student ID, the locker with which the student is registered with, the payment date, the dates the student makes the payment expiry date, the dates the student payment is expiring, and then is active column, whether the student local booking registration is active or not. So, and we also have the last table here, which is the waiting list. So in the waiting list, we are going to have students that register to, to own a locker, but there's no available locker for them. So they are going to be in the waiting list. For instance, let's assume we have 200 lockers in the school, and then all 200 lockers have been booked. So the students that are waiting to be assigned to a locker will be in the waiting list against the locker that they choose to be assigned to and all. So, yeah. So currently the lockers table is currently empty. So if you look at it, so it's currently empty. So I just want to add some data into that. So I'm just going to open this. So I created a CSV file, right? So this CSV file it contains the ID and the locker name. So we have locker L1 up until L200. So I'm just going to import this CSV. You don't need to do this. So let me I click on import. I choose the file. That is the file locker.csv. And then I scroll down and click on go on the bottom right corner here. So all 200 records have been inserted successfully. So we have some lockers in our locker table. So I'm going to give us this database along with the codes. So before we move any further, so I just want us to head over to Eclipse. So in Eclipse, we want to quickly take a look at the program that we are about to build. So like we said in our previous tutorial, our programming language of choice is Java. So we are using, why there are different flavors of Java that we can use. We can use Spring Boot, we can use GSF, we can use GSP and Servlet. So for these assignments and these projects to come, we are going to work with GSP and Servlet. So the sample application that we are going to work on, I just want to give us a quick walkthrough about that shows what we are going to be working on. So if I right click on this, if I click as run as, run on server. So let me restart my server. So we have the local booking system. So here is the parent login. You can see, provide your credentials to login. So we have the parent login, which is what you are seeing here. And then we have the staff or admin login. So which is what you are seeing here. I don't know why I'm getting all these suggestions. So if you try to log in with some invalid emails and password, for instance, you get an error message. So if you try to put, if you did not specify any of the data and you try to log in, you're also going to get some errors. So now if you put in the right credential, and then you put in the password, which is 123456. So and then you click on login, then it's going to take you to your login. So we have this. So this is the dashboard. The name of the user that is currently logged in is admin. So that is what you are seeing here. The surname is admin, the name is admin. So that's what you are having here, admin. And then we have information management information system report. Students in grade 8 and grade 11 using the locker. Grade 8 and grade 11 using the locker. So in the SQL query, I made a mistake. I chose grade 8 and grade 8 and grade 12. So in the solution that we are going to work on, I'm going to just do that correction. That's why you're saying grade 12 here. I made a mistake. It was supposed to be, my SQL query was supposed to target grade 8 and grade 11, not 12. So the student that booked the locker for January 2026 to June 2026, that's what you have in the second report here. So these are the two main reports that we have. So all the other links are not yet functional for now. So and then we can log out to go back to the login page. So that's what we have for this assignment. So without wasting much time, let's quickly go into coding. So we are back into Eclipse here. All we just need to do is to click on File, New, Dynamic Web Project. You give it a name. You can say you can give it your name dash local booking system. So in the previous tutorial, the version of Apache that you installed is going to be here by default. I am using Apache Tomcat 11. So the Tomcat version that you installed is going to be here. So you select the latest version for Dynamic Web Module. That is it. You click on Next. You accept the default. No need to change anything. You click on Next and then you click on Finish. So you will need a little bit of internet connection, sometimes for the project to generate and all. So my project is created on the left-hand side here in my Project Explorer. So in the Java Resources folder here is where you are going to create all your packages and classes and what have you. So in the source folder here, you also have your Java folder that is going to contain your packages and your servlet and classes and what have you. So in the web app folder, we are going to have our UI files, like our .jsp files, our CSS, images and JavaScript and what have you, and our jar files that we are going to need, to get the application up and running. So our jar files are going to be in the lib folder. So if all this is new to you, don't stress. In the course of building the application, you are going to get a hang of it. The web.xml file is going to contain XML configurations that are needed for our application. So we are going to add some XML configuration in these files that are needed for our application to work efficiently. And so the first thing first, we want to decide what is the welcome file going to be. So our welcome file is going to be index.jsp. So for the rest of these other guys, we delete them. So in essence, we create a new file in web app folder, right click the web app folder, new JSP file, and then you call that index. So index.jsp has been created here, so which is our welcome file. So after the welcome file is I've added this XML configuration, so I'm just going to explain them quickly. So the context parameter, we have the context parameter here, we have the parameter name and the parameter value. So content parameter are just used to specify app-wide values that are used in our Jakarta EE application, which is our Java application. So you have a name and a value. So these are just variables. So we have one variable, another variable. The name here, the variable name is web app name, and then its value is local booking system. Another one here. So we have the servlet mapping as well. This servlet mapping is needed for our resources folder. Our resources are our static content like CSS, images, and JS. So we have to specify the link to our resources. And then the other context parameter that we have here is for the SMTP. So this is going to be needed for emailing. So we are going to have some emailing functionality later in the course of the development. We are using matrap.io, which is a free SMTP tool that we can use to test emailing locally when we are developing our application. So this is the host. This is the port, username, and password. So we are going to register on matrap.io and get our username and password, and then we are going to remove these values and put in our username and password. So having done that, the next thing is to copy the jar files that we are going to need into the lib folder here. So I'll just copy them, and then I'm just going to paste them here quickly. So I'll just explain the jar files quickly to us. So we have the JSON jar file here. The JSON jar file is basically going to help us with creating of graphs. So we'll be able to convert our Java list into JavaScript arrays, so that it can be displayed in a graph. So when working with graphs, we are going to make use of a JavaScript library called chat.js with JSON. So we are going to be able to display graphs. So we have the Jakarta activation and Jakarta API jar file, which is just a JavaScript activation. Jakarta activation framework. So basically, it's just a core Java that is needed for Jakarta EE application, which is the type of application that we are working on right now. So we also have the Jakarta mail that's going to help us to send mails. So remember we talked about the XMTP settings that we have in our web.xml deployment. So Jakarta mail, and with these values we are going to be able to send emails. So we have the Jakarta servlet API as well, which is just one of the core Javas that are needed when we are working with JSP and servlet applications. So it is the foundation for building Jakarta EE application. Or in the past, it was called Java EE, but now it has been it's now Jakarta EE. So we have the MySQL connector, which is going to help us to connect to the database and perform some CRUD operation, create, read, update, and delete. So with MySQL, we are going to be able to connect to our MySQL database that we already had here. So we are going to be able to interact with our database. So having explained that briefly, the next thing is to create our resources folder, right? We talked about the servlet mapping here for our resources folder. So we have to create that in our web app folder here. So we right click on this and go to new. We want to create a new folder and then we'll call it resources, which is the same name that the same value that we have here. So inside here, we are going to have our different folders, which for our CSS. So we create a folder, CSS, images, and JS. So while we can get free templates online, to work with, to have a really beautiful interface that is different from what we have here. So this is not the most beautiful interface. There are a lot of templates that we can download online, to create an interface that is, more, you know, friendly and attractive than this. So I would not go through that stress in this tutorial. So we are just going to make use of Bootstrap 5, so which is a popular CSS framework, for creating different type of beautiful user interfaces. So you can, so I'll just, you click on the download link and download Bootstrap. So we are not going to make use of the CDN. For some reason, I want to make use of the uh, traditional file. So I have my download here. I have my CSS and JS folder. So what I'm just going to do is that I'm going to drag and drop this folder to my resources folder in my project. So copy files and folders, overwrite all. So in my CSS folder, we have this file, and in my JS folder as well, we have all the JavaScript files, right? So we're also going to need jQuery. So let's just quickly download jQuery. So we go to the jQuery download, the first link. So you click on the button to download jQuery. So you get this file. You can just copy the whole of this. Copy and create a file here. JavaScript file. You can just call it jQuery.js. So in here, you can just paste the resulting text that you got there. So it's the same way of, it's the same way of downloading the file and also like adding it to the project. You can also right click this and save link as, and then you give it a name. Yeah, you can save it as this, jQuery 3.7. Anyhow you want to save it is the same way. Either you use the copy and paste or you download the file. So now that, since that is out of the way, we can, let's go to the Bootstrap here and just copy the starter HTML code here. So we paste that in our index.html.jsp. So our Bootstrap file is in the resources folder, right? So we have to change this to resources, CSS folder, and bootstrap.main.css. Same thing with the JS, which is also in the resources. Change the title as well. So let's get a header from Bootstrap, right? So you go to the docs and then you scroll down to the component sections, and then we want to take a look at the nav bar. So we have some examples of nav bar here. So without stressing ourselves any further, we are just going to make use of this very first one. So we copy that, paste that in our code. So in case where the code is unformatted, you can always select all the code, right click, go to source, and then you click on format. So that's always going to format your HTML to have the tags all aligned properly. So you can see the nav is well aligned, and then we have the other one. So quickly, we are going to change this name to, we are going to change it from navbar, this title here, from navbar to local booking system. So we cannot keep repeating local booking system all the time in our code, right? So we are going to use a JSP object. Since we already have the web app name to be local booking system here in our web.xml deployment descriptor. So we have to use this name wherever we need to use the value local booking system. So how do we do that? So we are going to use a JSP object in an expression output tag. So by doing this, so we are going to use the application JSP object dot get init parameter, and then the name of that value, which is web app name. So this is always going to give us a local booking system all the time, because the param name is web app name, so it's going to give us its value. So anytime we need to use that, we just need to paste that out. So the next thing is to work on all these links, right? So what navigations are we going to have and whatnot? So in our JSP, we are going to be making use of the scriptlet tag. So we have the option of using GSTL, but to make things more easier, we are going to use the scriptlet tag. So I want to give us the navigation for when the parents are logged in. So if session, get attribute, if the parent is logged in, meaning if there's a parent name value in the session variable, if it is not equals to null, then we are going to be showing the, let me close the scriptlet tag by putting the closing bracket for the if statement. So what do we mean by this code? So we are using the session JSP object. We are calling the get attribute method. We are trying to get a parent name key in the session key value pair. If that is not, if that is not equals to null. So basically this means that the parent is logged in and their parent name is stored in our session. So here, instead of home, we are going to be saying hello, and then we are going to write out the parent using the expression scriptlet tag. So we are going to say session get attribute, and then we are going to say, we are going to display out the parent name. So it's going to be hello. So that's going to be session get attribute parent name. So every time a parent login is going to say hello, the name of the parent. If the parent name is Jane, this is going to be having hello Jane. So another navigation that we are going to have is where the admin is logged in. So we are going to have that in the else part here. We open the brace for the else part. So we close the brace for the else part. So let's put it else if, because there are situations whereby neither of the parent or admin is logged in. So session.get attribute. So if the admin name is not equals to null, meaning the admin is logged in. So here we are going to be showing the admin login. So what route are we going to be having for the admin? Just like we had for the parent that said hello, that we had a link that said hello, the parent. So we are going to have that for the admin as well. So it's going to be hello. That's going to be admin underscore name to display the name of the admin. So we are going to have other links, right? Not only the hello link. So Shift Control V to duplicate this line. Shift Control V again. So the other links that we are going to be having, let me just delete this. The other links that we are going to be having, we are going to be having links to go to the staff dashboard. We are going to be having links to go to the report. We are going to have the link to go to the parent login and admin login. So let me just copy one of these links here and paste it twice. So let me call this parent login and admin login, right? So these other links, we don't need these other links. So I'm just going to delete this, the link and the, okay. So for the links that says hello, right? So we can make that link to be disabled, right? So that is what we have here when we say disabled. Yeah, so for the links that says hello, so we make it disabled because the link cannot be clicked. It cannot be clicked on, right? And then we put this other class that is needed. Remove the href attribute since it's not going anywhere. So same thing for the parent. So we are going to have disabled, and then we paste that class there. We remove the href attribute. This is not going anywhere. So lastly, this other link that is here and the drop down, we don't need the drop down for now. I can just remove them. If I have a need for drop down, I'm just going to add it back in. We don't have a need for the search form as well, so I'm just going to remove that too. So the next thing now is to work on like a footer that we can make use of. Before we do that, let's split up this page because this is already looking messy already by having the header inside of this here. So what we're just going to do is that in our resources folder, right? In our static folder, sorry, in our web app folder, we are going to create a folder. We are going to call that static. So this folder is going to have our static contents like header, footer, and other files that we might have, right? So let's create an HTML file. Let's call this header. So that's going to have header.html as its name. So it has been created here. So since this file is going to have some JSP content in it, instead of using HTML, so let's just use JSP. So it's going to be a JSP file, right? So we are going to cut the header from here and then we paste it in here. I think this is more friendly. So after creating the header, we are going to create a footer as well, a JSP file, not an HTML file. Sorry guys. Footer.jsp. So remove this HTML content. To create a footer, we can just use the traditional HTML5 footer tag. So I've just given us a code for a sample footer that we can make use of, right? So it has the background BG body tertiary, same thing as the header background that we have here. So in a container, I've just put a text that has the copyright text. So using the expression scriptlet, I've already written the app name. So I want to put the current date to always display on the footer as well. So in the Java section at the top of the page here, so we can always import the date class, right? So you can say import. So with this import, you can import any class that is not in your that is not traditionally in your JSP. So the class that we want to import is the java.text.simple date format. So you can import as many classes as you want, right? So you can also import any other class by separating them with commas. For instance, we are still going to use the JSON in our footer when we are displaying our chart. So to import that, we are going to say com.google.json.json. So for other classes that you want to import, all you just need to do is to put a comma and then you put the import state. So now that we've import the simple date format, right? So we can display our, let me just put a dot sign here. We can display the current date using the output scriptlet tag here by saying new simple date format. And then what we want to display is the year. So for letter Y, so dot format, new date. The date object that we use here is gotten from the date class. You can see it's already in, there's a red squiggly line just underneath it. If I can take this to the next line like this, there's a red squiggly line under the date object. It shows that we have not imported the date class. So to do that, we have to say java.util is small letter u dot date, and you put a comma. So like that, you have already imported the date class and then the error is gone. So this is going to display the date in our footer section. So now to avoid code duplication, right, we have to cut all the sections that need to be cut. We need to cut them out properly. So from here to here, you're going to remove that and put that in the header section. So just before the nav, we have that in the nav. And then we go back to the index. We have the script tag and the closing HTML body. So we have to put that here in the footer as well. So we have that. So what we have now is just the container that we have in the body here. So now we can't just throw this hello world inside the body like that, right? So one of the things that we need to do is that we have to include the files that we have already removed. So to remove the files that we have removed, we use the include scriptlet tag. So we have include. So we specify the file that we want to include. So the file is static header.jsp. So same thing, we include the footer as well, just after the. So we cannot just throw tags into the body just like that. So we have to put this in some sort of like a container, because that's how this is supposed to be when we are using Bootstrap. So we create a container. So I've just created a container and a row with some descriptive text. So inside there, we are going to have a form that's going to have a post method, right? The traditional forms that we use. So I've just added the code for the form, right? So we have the email and the password field, right? So the parent email, so class form control, and then what I want us to pay attention to here is the value attribute that we have here, right? So it says if request.get parameter email. So if we get if the request object has the parameter, the email key value pair, so we want to re-add that into the email text box. That's what we have here. We are using the out JSP objects to print out whatever is in the request parameter of email. So it's more like this gives you more like a sticky form. So for example, if the login was not successful, it will prevent you from having to write the email again. Or so the previous email that you try to log in with is automatically in the email text box. So we have the parent password as well, the submit button. So the registration link, if the parent is not registered, so that they can register their information on the system. So we are not going to work on the registration in this tutorial, but in other subsequent tutorial, we are going to look at that. So another thing we're supposed to add in our static folder is the errors file. So we are going to have the errors.jsp file. So what is going to be the content of? So basically, this file is just going to contain different type of error messages, right? So I'm just going to give us a copy and paste of that. So if request get attribute status is equal to success, if our operation is successful, we are going to display the success alert. If the status is failed, we are going to display the error alert. And then for all other errors that we might have in our applications, so these alerts are going to display as necessary. So we'll come back to that shortly. So let's just save that. So for the errors that can occur when trying to log in into the application, we are going to use the include scriptlet tag to include the file. So that has the errors, because if your login is not successful, you want to know what is the problem. Maybe your email and password combination was not right or something like that. So we include that by saying errors.jsp. So now that we've created the parent login form, so the next thing is to create the admin login form. So for that, in our web app folder, I'm going to have a new folder that is going to have all the admin UIs, right? So admin. So in the admin UI, we are going to create a new JSV file that's going to be admin login. Admin login. So we have admin login here. So we are just going to paste the same code from the parent login. So we are just going to adjust this to maybe say something like administrative login. Enter your admin credentials to log in. So the action attributes, which is the attribute that the servlet is going to use to process the login, right? So we're going to have admin login here, enter admin email, admin password, enter admin password, login, admin. So for the admin registration, we are not going to have the registration link for the admin. So we have that. So for some reason, this file is not picking up the static files that we are adding in this admin login URI. So I think if we had a backward slash here, it's going to pick it up. Because like this admin login file is within a directory here, which is the admin directory. So we have to use the absolute path to get to the file. So now that is out of the way, the next thing now is to take this for a spin and see what this looks like in the UI. But before we do that, we have to create a servlet that is going to process the request. So we go to our Java resources section here. We right click on this SRC Java folder. So we want to create a new package to start with. So our package name is usually our domain name written backwards. For instance, if your domain name is www.tutorial.com now, so you want to put this com at the beginning of this, like this. So it's going to be com.tutorial. So for instance, now we don't have a domain yet. We are just going to say com dot, okay, let's just say the name of the school, maybe com dot Amandla, something like that. And then we click on finish. So you'll all agree that this is not a appropriate name to give a package name. So I want to rename this quickly. So refactor, rename. So I want to name it amanda.util as in utilities. So we rename that. Let me delete this one. So I like this. So we have that. So I've just deleted that. So under this package, we are going to create a servlet. Right click and click on new servlet. So we are going to call this application servlet, right? You click on next. You click on next. So we are going to have the init, the do get and the do post method, right? So after checking that, we click on finish. So this is what that gives us. So the web servlet indicates the URL, the base URL. So our base URL is just going to be / meaning home. So we can remove all these default comments that came with this. So what I'm just going to do first is that I will explain all this code before we actually go into adding more code into this file. So we don't have a need for the constructor that we have here, but we can leave it as it is. Doesn't do any harm. So the init method is the first method that runs anytime that you hit the servlet, that you create an object of this servlet. So the init method runs first. So if you make a get request, the do get method, whatever functionality that you have in the do get method runs. If you make a post request, whatever functionality that you have in the do post method run. So a get request, an example of a get request is when you click a link, for instance. An example of a post request is when you submit a form. So we have that. So when working with Eclipse, one of the things that that will come in handy is when we have content assist, auto completion, and IntelliSense and what have you. So to get that, we have to change a couple of settings in our Eclipse, which I've done in my instance. So in order to get that, you have to go to the Windows option here. You go to the Preferences tab, to the Preferences option. You go to Java. You want to click on Editor here. Let me open this. Let me expand this so that you can see it properly, right? And then you want to click on Content Assist. So you scroll all the way down here. So in the auto activation trigger for Java, so you want to put dots A, B, C, D up until Z. So what this means is that anytime you press a dot or any of the letters of the alphabet, it's going to pop up some suggestions for you to apply in your code and whatnot. So after adding this input, you want to click on apply and close. I already did that for mine, so no need to add that again. So that will come in handy when you start writing your Java codes in your Eclipse IDE. So now let's process the request to show the login pages. So we have the login page for the admin and the login page for the parent. So all we just need to do is to create a variable here. We're going to call it action is going to be the name of the variable. So that's going to be the request. So we have the HTTP servlet request for getting the request and HTTP response for giving an appropriate response. So we are going to make use of this anytime that we are trying to get a request and fulfilling a response in our application. So request, we get the servlet path. So whatever is in the path, maybe if somebody added, if the path is maybe /parents -login. So that path is going to be saved in action Maybe the user is requesting the parent login. Maybe the user is requesting the admin login. So this part is what is going to be saved in this action, right? So we create an object of the servlet context as well to get some variable from, not servlet exception, servlet context. Servlet context. So this is going to help us to get values from our web.xml file, right? So the next thing that we're going to do now is to process the request. After getting the request from the action variable here, the next thing is to process the action. So case whereby the value is, say, maybe /parent, maybe someone requested the parent login. So we want to show the parent login. So we are going to say request dot get request dispatcher. So the parent login is the index.jsp file, index.jsp. So then we are going to say forward request response to show the request.jsp file, and then we put a break statement to terminate that. Remove this, you can use Control D to delete if you want. So in the same vein, if someone requests the, say, admin login page using the admin route, so the admin page is in the admin folder, and then it has the admin-login.jsp file. So we are going to forward that. So one would ask that where are all these links coming from? All these links are coming from the header.jsp file, right? So we have this link here to show the parent login, and then we have this link here to show the admin login. So in here, we are going to put the route value, parent, and then in here, we are going to put the admin. So parent and admin here is what is going to hit this application servlet here, where you have parent, /parent, and /admin. So it's going to show the appropriate files that needs to be shown. Sorry, just made a mistake. All these codes are meant to be in the do-get method. So because they are all get request. When you remember when you click a link, that's a get request. So just indent this properly. So let's quickly set up our server. We go to the window, show view. You want to go to servers here to show your server. So you can see I have my Tomcat already started here. So to start my server, I click on restart. So now that my server is started successfully, so all I just need to do is to right click on my application servlet here, right click, run as, run on server. So the error that we have here is a usual error when it comes to Jakarta EE application. To solve that error, all you need to do is to go to the properties, right click the project, go to the properties, search for project facet in the filter section here, project facets. So change the dynamic web module to the one that works with Apache Tomcat 11. I think the one that works with Apache Tomcat 11 is 5.0. I think we're supposed to select that when we created the project from the scratch. Let's click on apply and then close. So let's try the process of running again. Run as, run on server. So we select our Tomcat as the server, and then we click on finish. So here is our application, all working as it should. So you can see neither of the admin or the parent is logged in. So we are having only two links from the header.jsp file according to the code that we've written. So we are having only these links in the else part. That's why you are saying only parent login and admin login. So when you click the parent login, it's supposed to take us to the parent login, right? So we'll look at what is causing the error here. Let's click the admin to go to the admin login. Still not. So to solve that error, let's move this servlet context. Let's move it to the class level. So let it be a variable here. We initialize it to null initially. So in the init method, right, we are going to initialize it. So we say context is equal to get servlet context. So we don't need to have that here anymore. So one of the windows that we need to be monitoring anytime that we are working with Jakarta EE application is the console window, right? So the console window is a very important window. It gives us, so let me just drag it to the bottom here. It gives us the error, the description of whatever error that happens in our application. It gives us so that we know where, if anything happens in our application, where the problem is coming from. So for instance, when we run the code the last time, so there was a problem on application servlet on line 27. So that was where that servlet context error was. So this is a very good section of our IDE to know about. The other one is the servers, right? The server is going to show the server whether it is the server that is running, whether the server the Tomcat server is running, or if there's a problem with the Tomcat server. You can always see that in from the same window, right? So you can just put them side by side, console and server. So we're gonna have the both of them. Let me just drag them down a little so that they don't obstruct our view here. So you have to have them side by side here so that if there's any problem, you know how to solve. So whenever you make any changes in your project, the Eclipse IDE is going to apply the changes and rerun the project. So you don't need to right click on run as run on server all the time. So the changes that I've made now has already been applied according to this message here in the console. It has already reloaded the application. So all I just need to do is to go to my browser and try to refresh the application and see if the error persists. So we are not going to need the servlet config parameter that we have here. So the init method is okay without injecting any other service. So if we go to our page now and then we click on the parent login, it loads the parent login. If we go to the admin login, it loads the administrative login. So the next thing is to fit the footer. I'll do that in a while. So I've just applied some changes to the login, right? In the container, I've put a margin bottom to space out the body content from the footer. So for both the login and then the both parent login and admin login, and then in the footer section. So this was supposed to be get init parameter, right? Not get attribute. So to get the web app name to display there in the footer section. So if we go to our page, initially it was displaying null. So if we refresh this now, so then it should be displaying our local booking system, and of course the date should be displaying as well. The tutorial is getting lengthier than expected, so quickly we are just going to do a connection to our database. So we create a new package here. So if I click on you go to new, New. You want to create a new, not record. That is going to be com.amandla dot data access object layer. That's our database layer. So under this package, we are going to create a new Java class that we are going to call application data access object layer. All right, and then we click on finish. So the next thing is to create our connection parameters in our application DAO class, so which I have already written for us here. So we are using JDBC to connect to our database, MySQL, localhost, and then the name of the database is local_db, and then we are not using SSL. The username to connect to MySQL is root, and then no password is set. The DB driver is the MySQL driver that is specified using the string com.mysql jdbc.driver. So right. So our database is the same database that we've worked on at the beginning, which is the local_db. So that's what I've specified here, local_db. So the next thing now is to create a protected method that is going to, initialize our connection anytime that we want to use this in our servlet, to get connection to our database. So it's going to be get connection, sorry about that. So you create a connection interface using java.sql, connection. So using the exception handling, class dot, you specify the JDBC driver variable in there. And then after that, initialize the connection variable to be equals to driver manager dot get connection. Specify the JDBC URL, JDBC username, and the JDBC password. In case if there is any error, so you can display that in the console by doing sys-o, and then you can say that db error. You can get the case if there is any error. At the end of the method, you are going to return the connection. So like that, we are connected to the database successfully. Now that we are connected to the database, the next thing is to create action method. So action methods for database CRUD, something like that. So we want to get two reports from the database in the admin side when the admin is logged in, right? So, but before we do that, let me create an additional package here. So right click on this, we want to create a package com.amandla.dto. DTO is data transfer object. Basically, they are just classes that we are going to be using to, map data from our database to our Java class so that we can, display it in our application. So the report that we want to display is going to have this type of format. We are going to have the student ID, the name, the local number, and the grade of the student. So we want to create a DTO that has this field, student ID, name, local number, and grade. That's what we are trying to create here. So we right click on this, our class here. Our package here, we create a class. We can call this student report. So this class is going to have some public variables and a constructor. So the student ID is of the long type. So we're gonna have that. We call that student ID. So Control Shift V to duplicate that line. So we have another string variable. So that's going to be the student name, right? Student name, Control Shift V. Another string variable that is going to represent the locker name. And lastly, a string variable that is going to represent the student's grade. So using Eclipse code generation, so that is not supposed to be inside the constructor, sorry. So outside the constructor. So using Eclipse code generation, we are just going to create a constructor that initializes all the variables, right? So you want to go to source, generate constructor using fields. So you want to check all the fields and then you want to click on generate. So that's going to give you a constructor that initializes all the fields, right? So you leave the empty constructor as is and then a constructor that initializes. So having done that, we go back to our application data access object class. So we want to create a method. So it's going to return a list of student reports. So that's going to be get locker usage for grade 8 and 11 students. So before writing the body of the method, right, we just want to get a quick understanding about the type of report that we are trying to generate. So the report is to get the students in grade 8 and 11 that are currently using the student locker. So in our database, I've already created two grade 8 and grade 11 students that are using the locker. So I have this person here. If I click on them, Olivia Taylor, who is in grade 8 that is currently using the locker. And I have another student here who is in grade 11, Ava Taylor, who is in grade 11. So the other student here, Ava Anderson, who is also in grade 11, right? So this is the report that we want to display in our admin side. So having done that, the next thing is to, create a query that is going to pull this report from our database. So in our data access object class, I'm going to create a new class, right? So this class is going to have all our queries. So I'm just going to name these queries. So all the values here are going to be constant. So I'm going to make it a static class by putting the final keyword. We don't need the constructor. So it's going to have the DB queries. So we already worked on a query before that helped us to create the database. I'm just going to give us a copy and paste of the. In our previous tutorial, we had this SQL statement that helped us in creating our database. So this is just for reference purpose. You can always refer back to this. So we have the create database, use the database, and then create all the tables and their relationship. So it comes in handy, to have your DB tables in your code. In case if something happens to your database, you can always run this code and create your database from scratch. So the value that I want to create is going to be public static final string get grade 8 and 11 So the string is quite long, so we're going to make use of a multi-line string. So with a multi-line string, we can be able to, write an SQL query that spans multi-lines. So here's the SQL statement. So select student ID, student local or student ID, concatenate student name and student surname from the students table S, name the column as student name, and then the local name and the student grade. From the student local SL, inner join, it specifies the inner join to join the students table and then the inner join to join the locals table where the grade is equal to grade 8 or grade 11. So if you want to see this SQL statement in action, you can always run it in your database. So you just go to SQL here, you want to paste that in there. If there's any errors, Control Enter, you run it. So that is what we have. So the query is running. Confirm that the query runs first before you add it into your code base. So the other report that we want to get is the students that are using the local from January 2026, to June 2026, right? So without further ado, I'm just going to add that here, get locals booked for Jan and June 2026 query. So, right, if we take this as well, if we head over to our database, Control Enter to confirm it is working. So you can see that the query runs properly. So now we go to our application DAO and then we want to complete the body of the statement. So what we want to return at the end of the body of the method is the list of student reports that we are going to call student reports. That's going to be an empty array list initially, array list of student reports. So we use the try catch block to get the data from the database, but we put the initialization bracket to initialize some values that we are going to use in our try catch block. So we want to create we add the connection interface. We call the get connection method to get the connection that we wrote here. So after that, we use prepare statement to make the database operation. Prepare statement PSD equals to connection dot prepare statement. So we get the statement. So the statement is what we have in the query here, get grade 8 and 11 query. So we paste that in. So now that import here is giving us the REST line, we have to import the class. So to import the static class, we have to say import static, and then you specify the namespace. That's going to become .amandla .dao .queries. You want to import everything in there. Sorry, the import statement is wrong. It's in the DTO class, not DAO class. So DTO.queries, you want to import everything. Meaning you want to import all the queries that you have in here, which are these two queries that we have initially for now. So we save that. So you can see that the squiggly line is gone. So in the exception handling body, you want to create the result set interface that is going to, help us to get the values that are gotten from the resulting prepare statement query. So you click, say, execute query, prepare statement of execute query. So we use a while loop, while result set dot as next. So you want to create a student report. Student report, you want to add a student report object to the student report array list. So you create a new student report, right? So when creating an object of student report, according to what you have here, the first parameter here is the student ID, the second, the student name, the third is the student locker name, and then the last one is the student grade. So that's what we want to add here. So we are going to say result set dot get long. So the name, the column name of that query from the database. Remember, the column name is student underscore ID according to what you have here. So that's what you are going to pass in the long argument here. Student underscore ID. So same thing. The next one is of the string type result set dot get string. Sorry about my typo, guys. That's going to be student name result set dot get string. That's going to be name according to what we have from the query in the database, and then lastly result set dot get string. That's going to be the grade. So we have that. I think we are missing a bracket here. So the method is all done. Let me remove this unnecessary line. So if there are any resulting errors, so we want to print that out. Let me just do sys and then let's just do e.get message. So the same thing, we are going to use the same method to get the usage from January 2026 to June 2026, right? So the only thing that changes here is the method name. Gets local usage for Jan to June 2026. So what is going to change here is the query. So we use the second query, get locals booked for Jan 2026. So at the end of the day, the prepare statement is going to execute the statement, store the result in result set interface that we have here, and then we loop through the result set. So for every record that is there, we are creating a new student report object and adding it to the list of student report that we have here. So lest I forget, so at the end of just before the method closes off, we want to return the student report. So same thing here, you want to return the student report. This is not needed. Not needed as well. So the next thing is to process the login, right? So we go back to the application servlet. So remember that in the do post method, we had nothing written yet. So in the do post method, this is where we are going to process all the form submissions, right? So we create a variable string, a string variable action that is going to get the request parameter that has a key of action. So we are going to use switch statement to process the action string variable. So case whereby it is parent login, we are going to add the parent login functionality. So case whereby it is the admin login, we are going to add the admin login functionality. Whereby the admin login functionality, we're going to add that in another, like a private method, login admin user. So we're going to pass in the request and the response HTTP servlet. So let's create this method in this file. You right click on the red bulb there, and then you press enter on this to create the method. So the method has been created here. So what does this mean in essence? What it means is that anytime we come to our admin login, we already have the action in the attribute here that says admin login here. So in our application servlet, we are getting that action value here, which is admin login. Case whereby it is admin login is going to come to this case, and then it's going to process this code that we have here in this case. So in that case, we are running a method that is called login admin user, which is what we want to write the functionality here. So in the login admin user method, so the first thing that we are going to do is to get the form data. So the form data is the username and password. So we create a variable email, which is going to be, to get that, we're going to say request.get parameter. So the name value of that text box is email. So if you go back, let me just terminate this quickly. If you go to your form, the name value of that text box is email. So we are getting this. We are getting it by the name attribute, which is email. Same thing for the password. To avoid typing too much, let me just Shift Control V here. So this is password, and then that is also password. So we create a session. So a session is going to help us to know who is logged in as at when. Session. We say request.get session. So we create the request dispatcher servlet as well. That's going to help us display the resulting page anytime the login is successful or failed. So dispatcher, we set that to be equals to null initially. So the next thing is to validate the entries of the form. So what if somebody wants to log in and then they don't specify the username and email in the text box? I mean, like when somebody is in the login page, instead of putting, sorry, not this login page, our login page, instead of putting some email and password, they don't put anything and then they hit the login button. So you should have a functionality that, that tells them to, add their email or password, or if they didn't add, if any of the fields are not valid, so something to prompt them to add correct values. So validate the user entries. So So if the email is equal to null or empty string, if the password is equal to null or empty string, so we want to set an attribute. The key of the attribute is status, and then the value is empty login credentials. So this is where our errors.jsp comes in, right? So we set a key here, status, and the value is empty login credentials. So what that means is that let's go to our errors here. So what it means is that in essence is that it's going to display this error alert message, whereby the value of the status key is equals to empty login, which is what we are setting here in our application servlet here. The key is status and the value is empty login. So it's going to display the error message, which is a dismissible alert for an error message. So it's going to show the admin login.jsp by setting that in the dispatcher. So if there are no errors and the values has been added, the email has been added, the password has been added as well. So in here, we are going to process the login. At the end of the code, the dispatcher is going to forward the request that is the page that needs to be shown. So you have to do that by passing the request and response. So to remove the squiggly line here, you have to add the throw declaration here. So that's going to add the throw declaration here that says throw servlet exception and input output exception. So to process the login, you have to add code that helps us to perform the login process. So we do that by coming into our application.dao class. So that's going to be a public method that's going to return an admin class. This admin class, we don't have it yet. In fact, before we do anything, let's create an admin class, because in our database, right, we have the admins table that has all these fields: ID, name, surname, email, password. So we have to have a class in our DTO that has those fields as well. So let's right click here, let's create a new Java class. So we are going to call this admin. It's going to have a constructor, so we are just going to create some public variable, public int ID, public string surname, Ctrl+Shift+V, name, email. So using our Eclipse IDE, we go to source, we are going to create a constructor that initializes all the fields. Generate constructor using fields, select all the fields, and then click on generate. So we have that, we have the empty constructor and the constructor that initializes all the fields. So back in our DAO class, so now we can create the public method, public, that returns an admin object. So the name of the method is login admin, as we already have. So we are going to provide the parameters that this is going to have is the email and password. So we are going to use the same try-catch block with the prepare statement, just like we did for the others as well. So you put the initialization bracket here to run some code, connection, prepare statement, PST. So we have to pass in the query that logs in the admin, right? So we go to our queries. So we want to create another final field here. So we are going to call this login. So it's just a simple SQL statement, right? Select star from admins where email is equals to whatever we specify as the parameter and password equals to whatever we specify as the parameter. So we put that here. Login, what did we call that? Login admin underscore query. Let me add a query here. Login admin query. So we set the parameter est.search string, the first parameter, which is going to be the email. The first parameter represents the first question mark, right? Control Shift V, and then we are going to have the second parameter, which is going to be the password. So in essence, what this means that this first one, the question mark parameter, is going to stand for the email, and then the second one is going to stand in for the password, which in essence is the email and the password that we are passing, that will pass as an argument when we call this login admin method. So after passing the parameters, we create a result set to execute the query. Result set rs, which is equal to prepare statement dot execute query. So we use an if statement if result set dot next, meaning if the result set has a value. So we want to create an admin object, admin. We set it to be equals to new admin, and then we are going to say result set dot get int. So now we want to get the values, right? So that's going to be for the first column, result set dot get string, right? According to how they are numbered in the constructor here. So that one is going to be for the ID, the surname, name, email, and the password. So we are going to be fetching that using the column number, right? Not the string right now. So get string to so we've gotten all the values like this. So after doing that, the next thing will return the admin object created. So if there was an error, you can always output that by saying e.get message. If the login is not successful, you can just return no. Now that we have the admin function in place, now we go to the application servlet, right? One thing that before writing the body of the expert, one thing that you all agree with me is that it doesn't make sense that in our database that we are having our password stored as plain text. For instance, in the parents table here that we had, our password here was stored as a plain text, which is not really actually right. So I'm just going to create a small util class, that is going to, do some little bit of encryption using MD5. So you don't need to bother yourself about that. So I'm just going to give us the class. So I'm going to create a class in my util package. I'm just going to call it my encryptor, something like that. So this is just going to be like a simple Java class. that's going to encrypt the password using MD5, right? So let me add the import. So we are going to use this class to encrypt our password using MD5. So let's go back to our application servlet. So in our application servlet now, we can process the login. So one of the things that we are going to do is that when we try to log in, when the user provides the email and password, so we want to hash the password and compare it with a hash password that is going to be in our database. So let's say hashed password is equal to, let's say, my encryptor dot get md5, and then we pass in our password variable. So we create an admin object, admin. So we have to initialize our DAO in here. So let's quickly initialize our DAO. So we have application DAO. Application, sorry, spelling typo there. So we import our application DAO in our init method. Initialize the application DAO to be equals to new application DAO. Remember that our application DAO helps us to gain access to the database and pull some data from the database. So we have to add that there in our class. So after injecting our application DAO, so we are going to work with it here. Application DAO dots. Now we called it login admin. So we pass the email address and the hash password that we have already hashed on the previous line just there. So we are going to check if admin is not equals to null. Remember that the login admin here that we have in our application DAO can return null if the login is not successful. So that's what we are checking here. If the admin is not equals to null, meaning the login is successful, so we want to set some session values. So the first one that we're going to have is the admin name. That's going to be admin name. Let's join that with the admin surname as well. Admin surname, admin dot name. So we are going to have an admin ID as well. So admin ID, that's just going to be admin.id. So we set the data, set the reports to show in the so we can use the var keyword. So the var keyword basically is just save us from having to strongly type our variables. So the var keyword is the compiler is going to determine the type of the variable by what you have in the initialization. So let's say student local usage report. So that's going to be application DAO.get student local usage for grade 8 and 11, which is one of the reports that we are pulling. So same thing, var student local usage Jan to June 2026. Application DAO.get So now that we have those in that variable, so we have to set the request attribute so that we can show these values in our admin dashboard when we log in, right? So request.set attribute. So let's first let's call the first one. Let it have a key of grade report, and then it's going to have the student locker. Let's call the second one, let's just call it usage report. So the dispatcher, we set in the dispatcher the page that we want to show. So the dispatcher is equals to request dot get request dispatcher, and then the page that we want to show is in the admin folder, which is the admin dashboard .jsp file. We currently don't have this file, right? So we have to create this file in our admin folder here. New JSP file. So it's currently an empty file. We are going to come to that shortly, but let's just complete this logic that we are writing here. So in the else part of the if statement, we have to display an appropriate message whereby it is null that is being returned from the login admin method. So we have to set the request.set attribute. So it's going to have a key of status, and then its value is going to be, let's call it field login. And then a copy and paste would not hurt here. So request dispatcher, so we are going to display the admin login.jsp page again. So it's going to display the field login message that has a key of status. So that's what you have in the errors.jsp file here in this section. The status, the key is status, and then the value is field login. Then it's going to display this error message as a dismissible alert, which says if an account exists, email and password does not match, invalid login. So that is what we get there. So having done that, the next thing is to work on the admin dashboard page, which is the page that shows when the admin logs in, right? So we can take a cue from the admin login.jsp file. We can just copy what we have here and paste it for the admin dashboard. So we have included the header, right? So we had some import statement as well. To add a page import statement, we have to use the scriptlet tag here, and then we say page import. So we are going to make use of a list because we want to display a list in our JSP file. So that is gotten from java.util. So, and then we are going to make use of our DTO. So we want to make use of everything inside of our DTO, any class that we have in our DTO. So the next thing is to work on this body. In the row tag here, we have a form here. We don't need a form. Let me just collapse the form and remove this. Oh, sorry. We remove the errors include as well as all this text. So we remove the offset here. Make sure that this is completely wide. So in here, we are just going to have a welcome message. We say welcome. So we get don't forget that the name of the logged in user has been saved in the session. So we use the session JSP object. We say get attribute. So the name of the logged in user has been added in the admin name. So we output that. Below is your management right. So let's open another Java scriptlet tag. So we are going to have the grade report. Let's create a variable grade report. So we can put in Java code inside this scriptlet tag. So we are going to cast that to a list of. The reason why we are able to do this is that we have already added this import statement from the DTO package. So we can use any class that is under the DTO here, admin, queries, student report, anyone that you want to use. That's why you are able to get this without giving you any errors. So we want to get that from the request.get attribute. So that is gotten from the grade report. Missing a closing bracket here. Let me duplicate this line. So we create another one. The second report, which is the usage report, right? So when we say request.get attribute, don't forget that we already passed the attribute here. When we say set attribute grade report, set attribute usage report, which is the list that we got from our database. That is what we are trying to get here. When we say request.get attribute get report, request.get attribute usage report, and then we are saving them in this dynamic variable that we have here, which is going to compile to a list of reports class. Time is fast spent already. The next thing is to display the data in a table. So I'm just going to drop the copy and paste for that here. So we have here students in grade 8 and 11 using the locker. That's what we have. So we create a table, class table, the head, student ID, student name, locker, and grade. So if the grade report.size is greater than 0, we put that in the script tag. You close it here and open the else part here. If there are no reports, you want to display a row that spans 4 columns in the table data, and then you want to say no students in grade 8 or 11 using Docker at the moment. Same thing for the usage report. You create a table student book for January 2026 to June 2026. You create a table. If the usage report size is greater than 0, then you want to show the data in a for loop. If there are no data, you want to display a table row that shows only no students in is not an appropriate message. No students report for January to June 2026. So something like that. So it's time to take our app for a spin and run it and see all the codes that we've been writing since, see them in action. So you go to our application servlet, you want to right click on run on server. This is the only time I'm going to do this. So because the server has been running in the background for quite some time now, click on next, and then you click on finish. Okay. Let's restart the server. Starting. The server is started. So we want to right click, run as, run on server. So the hub is up and running. So in our database, right, we don't have any data for the admin yet in our database, right? So, but let's try to add like a dummy data for now. Let's just insert one admin. Let's assume the surname is Masipa, and then the name is James, and then dot here dot there. So for the password, let's leave the password blank for now, and then just go to add. So I don't know what an MD5 password is going to look like for a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But in the meantime, let's just add something weird here. Just after hashing the password here, let's print on the console, CSO. Let's say password. Okay. So my changes have just been applied, and Eclipse ID has just rerun my project. So let's go to my project again. Let's try to log in. So we are getting the message that says, please supply email and password. When we try to put the email and password, I don't know if this dismissible alert works. Okay, it's not dismissing, right? So we have to look at that. The alert is not dismissing, right? We have to look at that. So if I put this again, it's not going to work. So let's assume I specify 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in the console, it must have printed my password. Yeah. So we have my password here. This is the MD5 password. So I'm just going to save this string and put it on my database, right? So my password is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for this James Masipa user. So I had it there. So back to so I put the right password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Though I'm supposed to comment at that line. Yeah, so here. So we have the report all showing. Welcome, James Masipa. Below is your management information. I'm going to correct that and put that in. Students in lockup, blah, blah, blah. So we have the name of the user that is logged in. We have the links, the waiting list, all these other ones we are going to look at in the next tutorial. Let's quickly look at the logout link as well. So, and put that missing N in that string. So first and first, we want to comment this out. It's not needed. You don't need to print that out again. In the admin dashboard, you want to put that missing N there. And then you want to correct the logout link, which is going to be in the header.jsp file. When the admin is logged in, which is this section. So let's assume we are going to have a route value of logout. So which is going to be a GET request, right? You all know that. So we are going to handle that in our do get method, right? So we create a new case, Control Shift V. So this is going to be log out, right? So to log out, we are going to say session. Okay, the session was not created here yet. So we create the session, HTTP session request dot get session. So when logging out, we have to invalidate the session by saying session dot invalidate to clear the session. So after clearing the session, we set the request dot get dispatcher to display the index.jsp file, and then we forward the request, forward request response. So Eclipse has just rerun our application and apply the changes. So if I refresh it again, I will just leave it as it is right now. So log out, and then if I click on log out, I'm logged out gracefully. So that is how our application is going to work. That will be all for this assignment. Thank you all. I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.